accountable. And the United States is proud to lead the coalition.
Are you saying you want him dead or alive, sir?
I just remember, all I'm doing is remembering when I was a kid. I remember that they used to put out there in the Old West a wanted poster. It said, "Wanted, dead or alive." All I want, America wants him brought to justice. That's what we want.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye. Thank you. Thank you, guys. See you right. Thank you, sir. See you right.
President Bush visiting the Pentagon, getting briefed there on plans to call up the reserves and the Guard, speaking with some personal passion about his determination to go after the people responsible for last Tuesday's attacks. We heard the president say these are people who want to destroy America's freedoms. He said, we are not going to allow ourselves to be terrorized by someone hiding in a cave. And there at the end, in a fairly remarkable comment, the president, when he was asked, do we want to go after Osama bin Laden, he said, we want justice. But then he went on to recall the old, that poster, as he said, in the Old West of the United States, the poster "Wanted, dead or alive," which frankly leaves it somewhat up in the air about what the mission of the United States is. The president is at the Pentagon to be briefed on plans to call up the reserves. He did say that they are looking at least 35,000 troops being called up to do everything from maintain air defenses, check shipping, help the military with airlift and logistics. This is the president meeting with employees at the Pentagon. He said the reserves would provide military police support. They would get involved in engineering projects. They would gather intelligence. And he said they would even serve as chaplains in the military. The president today underlining his determination not to let what happened last Tuesday stand. And the president preparing the American people for sacrifice, saying this effort does not come without a high cost. White House correspondent Major Garrett listening to the president. Major, the president injects a personal feeling into what he's saying. He's not just stating government policy here.
No, he's not, Judy, and it's worth remembering that this entire crisis has affected this president so personally, probably no more so than it did on Friday when he was in New York. He surveyed the damage, and then after surveying the damage, he spent 3 hours in the Jacob Javits Center meeting relatives of firefighters and policemen killed in the World Trade Towers collapse. That meeting was only scheduled for an hour and a half. He spent a full 3 hours there. His senior aides were so overcome with emotion they had to keep leaving the room. They couldn't take it. But the president was there for every moment. It has been described afterwards by senior aides as a transforming event for the president. He does take this very personally. He knows he has to prepare the country for war. He feels it viscerally himself, a deep sense of outrage and a deep commitment to pursue not only, as he said, Osama bin Laden, but the wider net, the wider matrix of terrorists around the world. And among the remarks that you didn't highlight was one he said it's going to take a lot of patience from the American people, a lot more than they're probably imagining right now. It's a very careful and calibrated effort on the part of the administration to harness and channel this overwhelming public support the president has received. His popularity rating, his approval rating now standing at 86%. They want to channel that and harness that popularity, not only for what may come now in the near term, but obviously the longer term elements of this campaign against global terrorism.
Major, I was struck that the president made a point of characterizing, took some pains to characterize these terrorists. He did talk about Osama bin Laden, but he made it clear it's not limited to him. He talked about going after anyone who provided comfort, food, aid of any sort, financial aid to the bin Laden network. And then he went on to talk about this is a different type of an enemy. He said, in the past, we've gone after beaches, we've tried to capture islands. He said these are people who like to hide and burrow in. He went on to say they don't follow ordinary conventional rules. They slit the throats of women on airplanes. Now that's a reference to what we believe happened on one or more of those airplanes last Tuesday when the hijackers literally slit the throats, we believe, of the airline attendants and perhaps passengers.
All of those gruesome details becoming more a part of the horrific story of the events on Tuesday. Details the president is latching onto and sharing with the American public in a very emphatic way. Not, I don't think, to stir them up or to create any froth. It would be hard to create any more froth than there already is, any more sense of outrage, but to try to suggest and typify the kind of behavior and the kind of actions the United States is up against when it combats terrorists of this kind.
All right, Major Garrett, and again, we've just been watching pictures of President Bush at the Pentagon in the last few hours, getting briefed, also meeting with military and civilian employees there. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, an update on the investigation into last Tuesday's attacks, also a briefing from the Justice Department. We'll be right back.
The thousands of individuals who are living secret lives, waiting to be summoned to cause some terrible act of destruction. That network has to be taken apart and destroyed. We're going to need to work with our friends and allies around the world. It's going to put stress on the relations between states. And then, if there are states sponsoring this international terror, we're going to announce to them they've got to renounce it, they've got to work with us, and if they don't, then they will become our adversaries, and we will go after those states as well, I'm sure.
With the kind of deals we have here in Gateway Country, we don't need gimmicks to get you in the store. Right now, we'll give you this Epson stylus printer free when you buy any Gateway Essential PC. This is the Gateway Essential 950C featuring the Intel Celeron processor. It's only $7.99. That's why I say we don't need gimmicks.
Really?
Offer ends September 23rd, so stop by soon or call 1-800-GATEWAY.
This is a complete broadband solution with a nitro-powered on switch. This is igniting your mission-critical applications on the fattest optical IP pipe on the planet. This is your business, screaming 1,000 times faster than yesterday. This is moving beyond connected. This is riding the light. This is the technology that makes it happen. Quest, ride the light.
Refinancing your mortgage may be easier than you think. Just log on to Ditech.com or call 1-800-71-FIX.
Today's low fixed rate with 0 points is only 6.750%.
With interest rates lower, now may be a great time to get cash or use the equity in your home to consolidate bills. It's smart money from Ditech.com. Apply online or call us at 1-800-71-FIX.
Morning, guys.
Hi.
Hey, morning.
Like to see how your cereals stack up to Total?
Sure,
To get the iron in 1 bowl of Total, you'll have to eat 2 bowls of cornflakes. For folic acid, try 4 bowls.
That's a really big spoon.
Want zinc? 10 bowls for you.
What's so funny?
Nothing.
Nice bowls.
Total has 100% of 11 vitamins and minerals in just 1 bowl.
We'll take the total. Sure. And give Junior the check.
What?
Total Raisin Bran, Total Cornflakes. 1 bowl, 100%.
Here in New York, we continue to watch the stock market numbers. The Dow down 530 points, it looks like to me. It's been sort of moving in a range over the last hour or so. In Washington, the focus continues to be on the investigation. More progress made overnight. CNN national correspondent Eileen O'Connor, part of the team covering that story, joins us now with some detail as we wait, and it may come very quickly, for the Attorney General's briefing. There it is, Attorney General John Ashcroft. Eileen, we'll get back to you. Thank you.
The investigation into Tuesday's attack is still moving vigorously. I want to express my appreciation to the thousands of agents and support staff of the Federal Bureau of Investigation who are literally working 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, following leads in the investigation. Their work has been excellent. I join the American people in thanking them for their dedication to the country. The number of tips and potential leads coming into the FBI has been very substantial. We've received helpful leads from both the 1-800 number and the website, and are grateful for the American people and their participation in this investigation. To date, the hotline has received more than 7,700 phone calls. The website, 47,000 potential leads. Let me repeat, those two resources are important for us and for the public. Any member of the public that has information that may be helpful to the investigation, please call 1-866-483-5137. The toll-free calling number is 1-866-483-5137. Or you can reach us at the internet at www.ifbccfbi.gov. In an effort to assist the FBI with manpower, I have directed the U.S. Marshals Service to assign more than 300 deputy marshals to provide needed assistance to FBI field offices. These deputy marshals will be assigned to the various locations across the country to augment and enhance the ongoing investigation and the responsibilities we have. While the FBI has always had a law enforcement presence in the air, the Department of Transportation has decided to expand our country's law enforcement capacities in that respect. Each day as flights increase, we will be adding additional enforcement officials from the Department of Justice as air marshals on planes, in addition to the already heightened security on the ground in airports. These additional law enforcement officials from various federal agencies are being assigned to the FAA to ensure aircraft passenger safety. Yesterday, I met with several members of the House and Senate leadership, including the leadership of the Intelligence and Judiciary Committees. FBI Director Mueller and I discussed with them the current threat assessment, including our belief that associates of the hijackers that have ties to terrorist organizations may be a continuing presence in the United States. This threat assessment has helped us to identify several areas where we should strengthen our laws to increase the ability of the Department of Justice and its component agencies to identify, prevent, and punish terrorism. The meetings we had were very productive, and I'm optimistic that we will be able to act quickly to provide law enforcement with the additional tools that are necessary to fight terrorism. I was encouraged by the members' support and their pledge to work as members of the Congress with the Department of Justice to move this agenda of anti-terrorism legislation forward. In the next few days, we intend to finalize a package of legislative measures that will be comprehensive. Areas covered include criminal justice, immigration, intelligence gathering, and financial infrastructure. And while the final details are still being discussed, I can highlight a few of the items that we will address in the proposal. Under intelligence gathering, we want to provide additional tools to collect intelligence on terrorists, including expanded electronic surveillance, search authority, and the ability to identify, seize, and forfeit terrorist assets. Two specific changes we have proposed include: first, current law requires us to obtain a wiretap for a phone number. It does not allow us to obtain a wiretap authority for an individual. Well, with the advances in technology, we need to make sure that our laws are also advancing. We're proposing that we provide wiretaps so that you can assign the wiretap to the individual, so that we can gain intelligence from individuals who use multiple telephones and changing cellular phones that move around with individuals. You understand that assigning the authority only to the hardware means that when a person changes hardware, we lose our capacity to surveil. And given the nature and availability of literally disposable telephones in modern society, we need to be able to have the court authority to monitor not the phone, but the telephone communications of a person, and to have that authority stay with the person. Second, current law requires that we obtain a separate wiretap in each jurisdiction of the country where an investigation is being pursued. We would like to change the law so that one wiretap approval can be obtained for all jurisdictions working on an investigation, particularly given the mobility of individuals and the capacity of individuals who are mobile to communicate. This is a reasonable upgrade in our opportunity to help us curtail and combat the threat. I want to assure you that in our effort to make sure that law enforcement can gain the intelligence that it needs in order to protect America, we are also mindful of our responsibility to protect the rights and privacy of Americans. Within the area of criminal justice, we want to make sure that our laws convey the seriousness of the crime of terrorism. First, we want to eliminate the statute of limitations for prosecution of terrorism crimes. Second, we feel it is imperative to make sure that terrorism is made the same kind of priority, that we would be able to fight with the same kind of integrity and equally strong tools that other crimes are subjected to. For example, we are identifying instances where the law currently makes it easier to prosecute drug trafficking and organized crime or espionage than it is to prosecute terrorism. If terrorism has not had a priority in the criminal justice system previously, it's time for us to understand that it needs to be a priority in the criminal justice system now. Let me give you two examples we have for increasing the penalties and elevating our capacity to deal with terrorism. A person who harbors a person involved in espionage is subject to stiffer penalties than a person who harbors an individual involved in terrorism. We think this reflects an inadequate response to the kind of threat that terrorism poses to our culture. Within financial infrastructure, it is important to have an understanding in our laws of the result of offering financial support to a terrorist. Understanding will not only give us the ability to adequately punish those who assist terrorists, but also move toward dismantling the infrastructure of terrorist organizations. We are proposing providing material support or resources to a terrorist organization an offense that would enable us to prosecute someone under the money laundering statutes. Now, we will be working diligently over the next day or maybe two to finalize this comprehensive proposal. And we will call upon the Congress of the United States to enact these important anti-terrorism measures this week. We need these tools to fight the terrorism threat which exists in the United States, and we must meet that growing threat. Now I call upon Director Mueller for remarks.
Good afternoon. Before I spend a moment discussing the current investigation, I want to talk briefly about another area of the FBI's responsibilities, and that relates to civil rights. Since the horrific attacks on September 11th, dozens of retaliatory hate crimes have been directed at members of the Arab American community, including assaults, arsons, threatening communications, and two possibly, and I say possibly, ethnically motivated murders. Many of these criminal acts have been directed at Muslim houses of worship and at Muslim community centers. And I'll make it very clear, vigilante attacks and threats against Arab Americans will not be tolerated. Though we are all saddened by the recent acts of terrorism against our nation, such acts of retaliation violate federal law and more particularly run counter to the very principles of equality and freedom upon which our nation is founded. And the FBI and the Department of Justice are committed to aggressively investigating and prosecuting violations of the federal hate crime laws. We to date have initiated 40 hate crime investigations involving reported attacks on Arab American citizens and institutions. And we are working with the Department of Justice to review other incidents to see if federal violations have taken place. I might also add that the FBI is reaching out to leaders of the Arab American community in each of our 56 field offices across the country. One other note before we discuss briefly this investigation. I want to announce that the FBI is again calling upon the support and assistance of the American people. We are actively seeking and recruiting English-speaking individuals with professional level proficiency in Arabic and Farsi. Those who would wish to join this program must be American citizens who have been permanent residents in the United States for at least 3 of the last 5 years. Each of these individuals who would seek to be employed by the FBI will be evaluated based on experience and education and must pass a thorough background investigation and a language proficiency examination. We ask that anyone who is interested in this and has the proficiency to call 1-866-483-5137, and let me repeat that, 1-866-483-5137. Call that number or check the FBI website at www.fbi.gov. Now, turning to the ongoing investigation, I'll say that we now have 500 personnel here in FBI headquarters, representative of 32 agencies, federal, state, and local, working 24 hours a day, coordinating the investigation across the country. And I should say also internationally, because we have more than 30 FBI legal offices across the world involved in the investigation. The AG, Attorney General, already mentioned that we've had 47,000 internet tips. Our hotline has produced 7,800 tips. In addition to that, we've had in excess of 26,000 leads generated through the various field offices. I might finish up by saying that we have, in the course of questioning a number of individuals throughout the country, we have 49 individuals who are currently being detained by the Immigration Service because of some concerns about the status of those individuals in the country. And with that, I think the Attorney General and I would be happy to answer questions.
Language barriers hindering the investigation, is that why you're looking for people to speak Arabic and Farsi?
We have had a language shortage for a period of time. And I don't think it would be just the FBI. I think it's a number of federal agencies. And we feel at this point in time we can use the additional manpower helping us on with the language issues.
Director, how many people have you arrested on material witness warrants or other ones?
I cannot and will not give you the total numbers on material witness warrants. It suffices to say that there are a number of material witness warrants that have been issued. They are sealed in most cases, and I cannot give you direct numbers. Yes, sir.
Director, why can't you give us those direct numbers?
Under seal. A number of the warrants are under seal. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Can you at least characterize their level of cooperation at this point? People that you've detained and also the people who are in INS custody. If you're talking to them and if they've been providing valuable information.
Well, it's hard to generalize. There are individuals cooperating, yes. There are a number of individuals that are not cooperating. Next question. Yes, sir.
I'm sure you're aware of reports that there have been names on watch lists in which there have been gaps in time before CIA information is passed along to the FAA or the FBI or the INS. Could you talk a little bit about how that process works and what is an acceptable amount of time before the word gets to these various security agencies?
Well, I know there is talk of one incident in which individuals have come into the country and subsequent to their arrival in the country been put on a watch list. And when we're talking about watch list in this circumstance, we're talking about the watch list at the borders so that somebody seeking to gain entry to the United States goes through immigration and the name pops up. There is an incident where a name had been passed on and the person was already in the country and the FBI sought to find that individual or individuals. One finds that when they fill out the cards at the border, they can put down Marriott, New York City, and as everybody knows, there are a number of Marriotts in New York City, or Sheraton, Detroit, or Los Angeles. And when we're passed a name and required to find the individual and we have no identity data other than a hotel or motel, we do the obvious thing and go to the either Marriott or Sheraton or the other hotel chain and have them run all the hotels in that vicinity. But it is very difficult quite often to find somebody once they're in the country. Yes, sir.
As a follow-up to that, were warning signs missed that might have played a part in this, not only in San Diego but also in Minnesota in the weeks before the attacks?
There were no warning signs that I'm aware of that would indicate this type of operation in the country. Yes?
We're hearing a number of complaints from the Arab American community that the FBI is targeting people, questioning people based solely on their ethnic background. Can you address that?
Absolutely. And thank you for raising that. If that is a perception out there, I would like to dispel it. It is wrong. When we seek to interview and question an individual, we are doing so based on predication that the individual may have information relating to the acts that took place last week. We do not, have not, will not target people based solely on their ethnicity, period, point blank. Yes, ma'am.
Could you elaborate on what specific changes in laws or technical capability will be necessary to tap and monitor disposable phones and other things like cash, prepaid calling cards?
Well, talking specifically about the telephones, there, as we mentioned, a piece of legislation would enable us to obtain wiretap authority for an individual regardless of whether he buys a cell phone on day one and a week later buys another cell phone with another number and moves from cell phone to cell phone seeking to avoid interception. That's a key piece of legislation that would be very helpful to us in monitoring conversations of those we suspect or know to be terrorists. Yes, sir.
Director, do you feel, where are these two murders that you